Hi everyone, I'm Matt Rowe,
I'm David Short.
and we just saw Django Unchained.
Yay.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. The funny thing is, I've been waiting for this movie to come out ever since I saw it on IMDb, but it still surprised me. The movie still surprised me. We pretty much expect that going into a Tarantino film. You know that probably about 80% of the movie is dialogue. I always expect that much. You're not exactly sure what type of dialogue is going to be used.
I'll just stop right there. What I expect from Tarantino is 50% dialogue, 30% gore, and the rest of it filled with awesome music. That's basically a Tarantino film for me.
Well, not all of his films have that, but pretty much that's a very standard formula for a lot of his work. Yeah, majority of it.
Yes.
But oh, and this is another thing. And I had mentioned this in the car driving back that when it comes down to period pieces, playing period appropriate music, I'm nuts about this type of thing. That's one of the reasons why I wasn't a fan of Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, because the music that she chose for it, which was a lot of modern music, had absolutely no place being in that movie. Strange enough, Tarantino actually makes the music choices he uses work. He uses Rick Ross in a scene. I don't know how that happened. I never knew that was fucking possible, that Rick Ross music would be used in a movie about slavery that's set up like a spaghetti western. That doesn't look like it should be in the same room together, let alone in the same movie.
Well, if you have been living under a rock and haven't seen anything, we can give you a general overview here. Django Unchained is about a freed slave who becomes a bounty hunter, and in a completely separate storyline, there is his wife is under the possession of a man, and he's going to get him, or get her back from him.
Which is played by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Not Django, the guy.
Yeah, the slave owner. Which, the funny thing is, he doesn't even show up into the movie until halfway through.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely...
It's pretty close to halfway.
Second act out of 3.
Yeah, it's
second
like the end of the second act is when they actually, meet him. He literally, they have a nice amount of exposition to build up before the main bad guy comes into the picture. And even though he's a main bad guy, he really isn't a bad guy. He's just a disgusting person. His teeth are almost as disgusting as his personality. And they do a great job with that, actually. Of course, Jamie Foxx has fucked up teeth in this movie, too.
Everybody has.
Everyone has fucked up teeth. I don't think there was a single solitary character.
The dentist. I feel like he had okay
Christoph Waltz actually had a decent set of teeth in this movie.
Mind the dentist.
Yeah, well, he technically is a dentist. He just doesn't practice anymore.
Yeah, he's got a new job.
Yeah, no, if you want to... Alright, first thing before we go any further with this, if you guys are going to see Django Unchained, watch it before you watch any more of this review. This is us just reminiscing about it. If you want to watch this movie, definitely give it a try, but at the same time, don't watch any reviews. Don't spoil any parts of the movie, because like a Tarantino film, this is all about subtle action, and my God, he does a great job building up tension. I think it's probably one of his better... Now, this is moving on now, but I think this is probably one of his better films when it comes down to building up suspense. And he does it really, really subtly, actually.
I just remember there was this one part we were sitting there. It was just after the dinner scene. Oh my, there's this... Okay, since either you're watching now, you've either seen the movie or you don't care, there's this dinner scene where they've been found out in their plan to get Django's wife back.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now just full-on crazy. DiCaprio. He's full-on crazy, essentially just messing with these guys. Messing with the German and Django. What's his name in the movie?
Oh, his name in the movie is Schultz, Dr. Schultz. I'm not sure his first name.
I'll say Schultz. And Leonardo DiCaprio's character is Candy. We'll call him Candy. So, Candy's just going nuts. and he's like threatening everybody involved in this little plan. Django's wife, Django, and Dr. Schultz. I looked over at Matt as soon as it was done. And we were just like...
It's like, God, that shit was intense.
It was very intense. And then there was this whole thing about Candy wanting a handshake to seal the deal. They just dragged it on for a nice couple minutes.
Seriously, like that conversation about him just trying to shake his hand literally lasted a couple minutes, but at the same time, though, everything set up about that scene worked. I mean, like, the cinematography, the blocking, everywhere, where every single person was placed in that room was important. And that really shows how much on his A game that Tarantino was during this movie. I remember, now... Obviously, we can't talk about this movie without talking about all the fucking controversy that's been going on around it.
I can't watch me.
Well, I have to because I'm the history guy. So, everyone is understandable that Spike Lee is very adamant against this, and actually,
we'll do a link to some story about it down in the description.
Yeah, right here.
Wait, I don't know. Can we do annotations to outside sites?
Oh yeah, we can.
Oh, okay, then there.
All right. And to be honest, actually, all right. First, I want to tell you this before I move on to the idea on Spike Lee. During the production, Tarantino actually went up to Sidney Poitier. This is just based off of what I've read about it. He went up to Sidney Poitier, and he literally was worried that he had gone way too far with this movie. To be honest, actually, and I'm not going to censor myself here because you're all going to think it even if I just say the N-word. Nigger is said like over 100 times in this movie. It's actually... I mean, I can understand why people can get offended when it comes down to that word, but at the same time, though, it's the context in which it's used. That is really the thing that you have to worry about. Think about here.
If Django Unchained was something about like gang violence in a modern city or something like that, and he used it the same amount of times, I have a feeling it would not be nearly as acceptable.
To be honest, actually, if this movie was made the exact same way, but if it was done by a black man, Spike Lee probably wouldn't have anything to say about it. And I'm not dissing Spike Lee. Spike Lee is a great director. He's made some of my favorite films. Malcolm X, The 25th Hour. I mean, like, this guy has made Do the Right Thing, his first movie. This guy is amazing when it comes down to seeing about race relations in America. He is close to a master at his craft. You can get to it. But at the same time, after watching this movie, he needs to pull the stick out of his ass and go watch the movie if he's going to fucking diss it. That's exactly the problem. Like, when Tarantino went to Sidney Poitier, he literally says, like, I think I've gone too far. Sidney Poitier basically just told him to man the fuck up and make the movie. And if Sidney Poitier has your back with that kind of thing, then that's pretty fucking awesome. But of course, Spike Lee might say something about Sidney Poitier not, representing the real black community or whatever, but then again, a lot of people can say that.
By the time we made this, we don't know if Spike Lee's changed opinion.
No, we don't know.
Other opinion.
We're just going off of the information that we've had for the day. But at the same time, I can understand how people can get offended by this, but there is a difference between someone getting offended at something said and someone saying something offensive. Yeah. People really need to make that distinction, especially when it comes down to Tarantino films. And to be honest, actually, even though this movie shows a very interesting side of Tarantino, he's not really doing anything he hasn't done before. He's using the formula that works for him. And the funny thing is, he is a huge, huge supporter of blaxploitation films. That's evident. That's one of the reasons why Samuel L. Jackson keeps acting in his shit, because he supports Tarantino fully with what he does. And I understand that, and I respect that. And the funny thing is, when we went and saw the theater, the majority of the audience was black. And I think they were laughing harder than us at most of the jokes. So, like, at first, like, the thing is, like, during the opening credits, there was a lot of homages to the B-grade Grindhouse films and whatnot. But I found it a little iffy laughing because it was all over the title credits of a chain gang of slaves walking through the desert.
Hold on. You laughed when the Columbia logo...
Yes, I did. The very first joke in the movie I laughed at.
It wasn't even a joke. They just used... Instead of using, like, modern-day Columbia...
They used the original Columbia logo. Like, the original, the hand-painted one.
Exactly. And nobody else, I guess.
No one else laughed!
Nobody else was a film buff, I guess, because he was. You could just hear him in the audience. Like, here, hold on. This is what you heard, all right? This is, if you imagine.
And all of a sudden, all right, here, it was like, and the logo comes up.
Ha!
That was pretty much it. And, like, I don't know. I guess it just exposed to the world how much of a geek I am. But at the same time, though, like, if you love, like, B grindhouse films as much as I do, I love exploitation films for what they are. I mean, I will bash them if they are bad movies, but at the same time, there are so many exploitation movies I love, especially when it comes down to blaxploitation. But the thing is, though, mixing blaxploitation and a spaghetti western style, I didn't actually think it was possible. But if it's going to be done by anybody, it could only really be Tarantino, because it's just the way that he goes about doing things. And there's so many references to so many other films, and there's so many other stories. No, actually, one of my favorite parts of the movie was when Christoph Waltz was explaining Alexander Dumas to Candy, and basically, like, you know, he's saying, like, you know, how one of the slaves, like, he was a big reader, like, Candy was a big reader of Alexander Dumas.
No, Candy was. This is down south back, what was it?
This was 2 years before the Civil War.
Was it called, like, the
58.
Antebellum era? Wasn't that something?
Something around there.
It was something like that. And so everybody had a little bit of French. They would just... Everybody... He wanted to be called Monsieur Candy.
Even though he didn't speak a word of French.
He didn't speak any French. So, he read Three Musketeers, done by a Frenchman. What he didn't know...
is Alexander Dumas is black.
And he was the writer of Three Musketeers.
And I love his face when Waltz tells him that. His face just fucking drops. And that's actually another thing about this. I was a little iffy about DiCaprio in this movie when I first saw the trailers. He looked very much like a caricature. He didn't really look like a real person. And at the very beginning, he kind of felt that way to me still. Like, I mean, I felt a little bit of, like, just, you know, very flat superficiality until the dinner scene. Mm. And that's when you really saw his character really come out, and that's a really interesting part. He really sold on his character.
Now, if I could jump in, he feels DiCaprio's. I can't comment because I just fucking love DiCaprio, like 1,000%. Like, I will watch anything this guy is in. You'll get, but I guess I could give my little 2 cents here. He did feel over the top.
Oh yeah, he definitely was.
He did, but due to the era, the way that it was being shot, the genre, it definitely worked in his favor.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, like, he was over the top, but appropriately so. And actually, the moments in which that he was more subtle, he still was playing that character. It's that fucking limey accent of his that he had. Like, it looks like like every single time he talks, it feels like there's a rat crawling across your foot. It's like he's just this slimy, sleazy guy. And actually, the violence in this movie, very much like any Tarantino film, it comes the flying fuck out of nowhere. I mean, like, the thing is, the tension is definitely there, but it happens so brutal and so quickly that it's like you blink and you miss it.
It's the best way I think.
Except for the climactic fight scene. That one goes on for a little while, and but the thing is, at the same time, it doesn't. It's not like a lot of action movies where literally they'll keep the final sequence going on for like 20 goddamn minutes. That fight scene probably lasted maybe about 10. Yeah. If that.
Well, see, the way I could really
it was awesome.
Get it into words is that this movie, when it comes to its action scenes, well, a movie overall almost, it's almost the antithesis of 300. Whereas 300, the other shots are just whatever, the other shots are just advancing to other action scenes. This one, it does the slow-mo on everything except the action scene.
Yeah.
It's running,
it's all the build-up.
Riding into town, it's just building up. But when it comes to the action scene, it comes, boom, full force, and it just, you blink, and I wouldn't say you miss it because it goes on forever. But
the one time they use slow-mo in the action sequences in the final sequence when Jamie Foxx is facing down all those guys. But it doesn't do the whole goddamn scene in slow-mo. It does a couple shots, and then it goes back to normal speed. Exactly. And the one thing it doesn't do that I hate in a lot of action movies is where you slow down and then all of a sudden you accelerate the speed. Like that's the end. Because the thing is, though, if you go down to slow-mo and then you go back to normal speed, that looks faster. You don't need to make it even quicker. The Wachowski brothers did this in the Matrix movies. or shall I say the Wachowski siblings to be more PC nowadays. But the thing is, the thing is, yeah, it worked for what it is, but then it just became a cliche.
Yeah.
And then it just got to a point where it's annoying. Even the Expendables did that. But
that's how you know you stop right there. The Expendables.
Stallone.
We're done. We're done.
But this one, the elements that all it had, and there's some really graphic elements. There's actually a couple scenes in this movie that depict some pretty nasty torture when it comes down to the overseers and the slaves. I mean, and actually, there's this one scene where he's walking up to these guys. They're about ready to whip a girl who ended up dropping some eggs, and the tension build up. So, like, you really don't, like, do something. Don't fucking, like, someone do something. I literally was like, come on!
Now, I guess one way to put it would be, there are films out there that are rated R for no reason. Like, no discernible reason.
Yeah.
They're rated R.
They should be totally PG-13.
This is rated R for a reason.
This is an R. The thing is, have you ever really thought of any Tarantino movie that shouldn't be rated R?
Yeah.
I mean, like, to be honest, like, I'm not a person who is a fan of how the MPAA rates movies, especially with the distinction between NC-17 and R. But the thing is, though, yeah, like, Tarantino earns his R rating. He really does. And actually, he pushes and that's the one thing that I like about Tarantino. He pushes what you can do with language. And that's one thing that several people, including Spike Lee, don't really seem to understand about Tarantino. And I'm not going to say that Tarantino is the greatest filmmaker ever. No. He's a guy who's amazingly crafted at reworking something that's already existing to make it sound original. In his own words, he steals shit. That's basically what he does. If you look at Reservoir Dogs, it's literally the exact same plot of a Hong Kong action film. Yeah. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But, like, it's homages to so many other films. Is it because he's lazy? No, he's fucking gifted as hell. It's because he loves what he does. And I can't possibly say that you go into a Tarantino movie and not have a good time. I have never had that experience. Personally, my least favorite Tarantino films are the Kill Bill movies. Now, do I think that they're bad movies? No. I just think those are the weakest movies he's made. And yes, I think they're weaker than Death Proof. Fucking eat me. But, having said that, Death Proof is one hell of an overindulgent ego fest. But, moving back on to Django Unchained, I seriously think, when it comes down to Tarantino treating a subject matter with a lot of seriousness, even in his own tongue-in-cheek, dark comedy way, this is probably one of his more mature films, if I can actually call it that.
Yes, I would go. See,
yes and no. I mean, I can see how that could be yet, and at the same time, no. But, to be honest, actually, and even though I've only seen this once, and I definitely need to see it more than once, but I think I actually put this on par with Inglourious Basterds. Yeah. But, I mean, I think this still stands even after saying this. I still think Tarantino's best movies are Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Inglourious Basterds. I still think that is the way it is.
But, focusing back on Django Unchained,
yeah.
I just want to talk for a minute. Go for it. Samuel L. Jackson.
Sammy!
Like almost any movie he does with Quentin,
he's a delight.
You have, if you're not laughing or deeply involved with what he's saying, you're not properly watching this movie.
If you don't get it, really, you need to walk out because it's not going to get any better.
No. Now, Samuel in this doesn't appear until right at the end of the second act, if not the third.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely in the third act.
The third act? All right. So he appears in the third act, and he is just a delight.
He is a delight.
He is wonderful. In his first appearance, I didn't even realize it was him.
He plays the head house slave.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like, if any of you are familiar with the movie Malcolm X or the actual person Malcolm X, one time he famously said on television that, I'm paraphrasing here and whatnot, basically there's two different types of slaves and whatnot. It was the field and the house. And the thing is, though, with and actually, they actually said this in the movie too. It's like Django is supposed to be impersonating basically a black slaver, and he said that's the lowest of the low. That's even lower than the head house digger. And like, damn! Like, I didn't even. To be honest, actually, and I actually had to double check because obviously you wouldn't think that Quentin Tarantino has necessarily been known for his historical accuracy. But I seriously think when it comes down, not the actual historical aspects, but the details that he puts into the movie, like some of the harnesses that are put on the slaves, like with the neck braces and whatnot, they're real. That's exactly how that shit looked like and exactly how it functioned. So I know that a lot of research went into making this movie. And also, like, the costumes, the sets and whatnot, it's very, very set in the period. So I know there was research done. So, it really does show how much effort the entire crew really put into this whole project to try to make it sincere. Now, obviously, Tarantino is not going to be, like, literally, the scenes go from extreme tension to literally being broken by a single line of funny dialogue. It's amazing how fast and how effective he is able to shift the tones in this movie. I love it. And to be honest, actually, I don't think he's done it nearly as effective in any of his other movies as this one. I mean, he's definitely done elements, and I can't obviously speak for all of his movies all at once. I can't recall all that. But out of my mind, really, I never have remembered a movie that his dialogue literally shifts that quickly. I mean, usually it has a couple midi steps right before that to, like, kind of segue a little bit into the more serious stuff, or the segue to the more funny stuff and whatnot. This one has a great sense of timing. He has a great sense. I think he's really perfected his comedic timing when it comes to his dialogue.
Well, as you can tell, Quentin Tarantino has done quite a good job.
Yeah.
Writing style, the acting of everybody.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Therefore, his direction.
Even Tarantino's cameo was fun. He played an Aussie, which was it was really interesting because at the same time, that's actually historically accurate because a lot of Australians participated in the slave trade.
Overall, Matthew, would you recommend seeing this movie in theaters or waiting until it came out on DVD?
This movie, definitely see in theaters. To be honest, actually, you can get the exact same experience watching it at home, but at the same time, being in the theater aspect, especially with a bunch of people, it's so rewarding to watch a Tarantino film that way. Yeah, seriously,
there's a reason why they put back into theaters Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. It's the 20-year anniversary of Tarantino, but at the same time, though, he's just... all the controversy behind it is just drumming up more interest in trying to watch the movie. One of the things that you don't seem to understand, and one of the things that you could do to effectively make sure everyone watches your shit, is to make sure there's bad press about it. No press is bad press. You know, press is press for a movie. And Tarantino's entire career has been built on controversy, so why is this movie such a fucking surprise? The difference being is just that it happens to be dealing more directly with race than his other films. His other films was more of his tongue-in-cheek, like, homage to the filmmakers that inspired him when he was a kid. This one literally, actually, when it comes down to the real aspects of slavery, it does take the material extremely seriously. But at the same time, the one character that I couldn't stand in this movie, and it's not because the acting was bad or whatnot, it's just because the way that the character was written, you wanted to punch her in the fucking face. It was the sister of Candy. And whatnot. This dumb cunt, and I will use that word in this regard, whatever. The thing is, like, she literally was this dumb bitch that had her like, cheeky-ass smile on her face the entire time. And just the way that they talked about so many of the slaves, even while they were in the room, I mean, the way that the actors handle it, it's so natural. It's so natural. I'm amazed how fluid everyone is in this movie. But seriously, like, literally how these people are treated just boggles your mind that this literally took place. one of the things that Tarantino was worried about was the fact that he was shooting all of these scenes that depicted slave atrocities and whatnot on the exact same land that it took place on. That was the thing that he always had a bad taste in his mouth, because all the stuff that was shot in like Louisiana and shit like that, Mississippi, it was actually shot there. So like, there are real plantations that they filmed on that slaves actually died by the thousands. And that actually only makes it more visceral to me. It makes it more, I guess you can say it strikes more home to me. I mean, obviously, I can't relate to it. I'm a white male. I'm far from that
You've gone through many atrocities throughout your time in this.
Yeah, the problem is usually white men are the ones committing the atrocities, but we'll save that one for another day. But any thoughts you think, Dave?
As someone who didn't look into the controversies, as someone who only knew the plot to this film going in, nothing about Spike Lee, nothing about anything of that, I'd say go watch it. Do not watch it, only under 3 circumstances. 1, your elderly grandmother wants to see it.
Don't.
No.
Is that a movie to take your elder or your younger siblings to?
If you have anyone under 12 who wants to do this, don't do that.
Which we saw. We saw this is going with like a 9-year-old kid. I'm like, what do you expect is going to be in this movie?
2, if you've been grown up shielded and you can't take...
If you don't like language and gore, you're not going to fucking like this movie.
There's also pretty graphic nudity towards the end. Yeah.
Only really in 2 shots.
2 shots, but those 2 shots definitely last. They make you feel them.
Yeah, you're very acquainted with the anatomy of Jamie Foxx.
And the third one, if you get offended by anything. I'm not saying, like, if you get offended by anything. I'm saying if somebody could say, oh, hey, I see you put on a little bit of weight over the holidays, and you're just like, what in the world? I am suing you for libel. Don't do that. Nobody's going to enjoy you at the theater.
Oh, yeah, and seriously, the thing is, if you... Actually, this is, I think, the least amount of fucks I ever heard in a Tarantino movie.
Well, they replaced it with other words.
Yeah, they replaced it with that. They replaced it with ethnic slurs. But, really just... Tarantino's strength is his language. And also Tarantino's strength is pushing what you can do with language. Now, obviously, he's not the only person who does this. Like, David Milch. Let's take him, for instance. If you guys like the show or ever seen the show Deadwood, what far more fucking swearing and racial slurs than this goddamn movie. Including it just goes through all ethnicities and whatnot. But... at the same time, though, it's experimenting with how long you can keep a dialogue scene going, but at the same time using perverse language, if you require to be called that, and whatnot, to his advantage. And that's exactly what this movie, that's what Tarantino's entire career has been, for the most part.
So, yeah, overall, I think we both agree go see it.
Definitely go see it.
And, don't be offended by it, because it actually happened. To some extent. Like, not plot-wise.
To some extent.
The events.
The atrocities you see depicted and whatnot are things that actually did happen in record numbers all over the fucking place. So the thing is, though, at the same time, enjoy yourself, but at the same time, try to be a little sensitive. Actually, no, I ain't gonna do that. What the fuck is with me? I ain't sensitive. I'm the fucking epitome of lewd, crude, lascivious, and indecent.
I don't usually end these things. Bye.